Yeah.
Hi, you're listening to Las Primas Dicen. This is our unfiltered truths about motherhood, faith, and our life experiences. I'm Lolo, a mom of two, a wife, a grad student, and honestly, just a girl trying to romanticize her life between tantrums and to do lists.
Hi, and I'm Pam, a wife, a boy mom, a creative at heart, and I'm on a journey of growing closer to God while navigating life, motherhood, and everything in between.
Dale, welcome back.
Welcome back, Primas. Welcome back to episode 2. Thank you for joining us again. Thank you for rocking with us on the most authentic podcast out there. You know why it's so authentic? Because it's just me and Lolo on this Riverside studio. Shout out to Riverside Studio. We're just here, I'm making it happen. She's in her house. I'm in my house. We don't have like a real studio. We're doing it all virtually. It's not all fancy. Okay. Episode 2, mamita. And this one is one that the primas will be interested in. That is such a typical like middle school, high school, like superpower. They're gonna find you. They're gonna find
Mm-hmm.
your social media. They're gonna find everything you've done. Everything is on private, and you're just trying to live your normal life because you're a normal human being, and your students will be out here lurking. They will.
Because they're chimosos.
They're chismosos. They're gonna find anything and everything that you've done out there. And so a lot of our listeners of season 1 were like our students. A lot of our listeners obviously were our literal primas who were also teachers and in the school setting. And so this episode is fully welcoming and embracing once again our primas, our former teachers. And I know that our student listeners are still out there, but now they're older and wiser, and like they've graduated high school and they are graduating college. So now you are welcome. We want you to listen now. I was looking at some of their Instagram posts, and it's crazy that some of my 7th and 8th graders have graduated college. They have got their 4-year degree and they graduated this year, and I'm like, "Bro, I literally taught them when they were 8th graders."
Literally 13 years old.
13 years old. El tiempo pasa.
Te está poniendo bien.
But I age like fine wine. I get better with
Uh-huh.
time.
Period.
A
Amen.
period. All right. So, primas, this episode is all about why we left teaching. Why we left teaching. So, to start off, did we ever imagine that we'd leave teaching?
No. Actually, yes. I remember actually when I got hired that the principal was asking like how long I saw myself there. And I was like, well, I don't see myself here past like 5 years. Like this is like a stepping stone for me personally, you know? And I was very transparent about that. She didn't care. She was like, okay, cool. Let's do it. But I don't know if your mindset was the same because I felt like you had a little bit more passion towards education more than I did. I grew the passion, but I feel like you had more of it.
I definitely knew going into teaching that I would not be one of those teachers that would be in the classroom for 30 years. Like, God bless those women and men who do so.
Mm-hmm.
They are amazing. And it is so nice to go back to your high school and see your old teacher there that's still teaching. Like, that's such a beautiful thing. But it could not be me. It couldn't be me, baby.
Me either.
You would not catch me in a classroom while I am old and wrinkly.
Mm-mm.
I always knew that I would leave teaching at some point, and I was in the classroom for 8 years. And I think that I left at the perfect time. So, primas, pull up a chair because this episode we are going to be diving into teaching, how we got there, and why we left. So let's start with why we became teachers. So Lolo, how did you get into teaching and what did you love about it?
Well, I got into teaching because of you.
That is true.
I mean, I got into teaching primarily like a lot of my family members were already in teaching. Like Pam was in teaching, her brother was in teaching. I had some other cousins that were also in teaching. So I was leaving North Carolina. My husband is, for those that don't know, was military. He was leaving the military and we were coming back home to Miami and I needed a job. And Pam was like, oh, they're looking for teachers. And I was like, you know what? Let me try it because I've always had a heart, not necessarily for teaching, but I had a heart for that specific age group that I worked with, which was like that teenage age group. I also, for those who don't know, I studied psychology and my main thing was I wanted to work with adolescents. And in particular, like adolescents that were dealing with like substance abuse and things like that, which obviously my mind has changed a million times. That's not what I'm, that's not the path I'm on now, but that's how it started. So I went to the interview. I had a great interview with the principal, had a good experience, and they hired me.
What year did you start teaching?
It was 2019. So right before the pandemic, because the pandemic was 2020. And working during that time in education, whew, that was rough.
It was.
That was rough.
That was a rough one, yeah.
But that's how I got into teaching. And you?
Yeah, so my journey with teaching was a little bit different. When I graduated Florida State University, go Knowles, I was like, what now? Like, what do I do now? I got a whole last degree. What do I do with it? I double majored in English literature with a concentration in creative writing and mass communications. So when I graduated, I'm like, what am I gonna do with this? I had no idea like what to do with my degree. And I had a girl from high school who graduated my brother and she was doing city year Miami and she told me all about the program and she was like, this is a great way you can do this in the interim while you find another job. It's a year and you'll get paid this much. Well, when you work with AmeriCorps, you actually don't get paid, but you get like a stipend or whatnot. So she's like giving me the ins and the outs of what this entailed. And I was like, okay, I think I can do that. And I had nothing else lined up right after college and I was getting ready to go back home. So basically, I was like, all right, I'm going to do this. I applied to City Year Miami. And so that experience inspired me to then get my master's degree in urban education. And I finished my master's degree in urban education in 2017. And at that point, I was like, okay, I want to do this. Like, I want to be the teacher that's going to change the world. If you knew me when I was a teacher back in the day, I was like the freedom rider teacher, right? Like you could have made a whole movie about me, baby. You could have been like, put the girl on the big screen. Okay. I was like going to change the world with teaching. Okay. I was like social justice teacher. I was like, we're gonna like rebel and my students are gonna be woke and social justice and all the things, right? Like that was very much my mindset and who I was in my early 20s. And that was the person that I brought into that classroom. And so my journey into the education system started off with wanting to help students who needed the help, who needed a champion in the classroom, in the school system. And when you get to these schools that nobody cares about, and when you get to the schools that the system has like pushed to the side, when you're in there, not when you hear about them, not when you read about them, not when you see these schools in the movies, but when you are living and breathing in these schools, I just felt like a duty and a responsibility to the kids that I had come to grow and love and adore. And like my heart broke for them. And I just was out here fighting the good fight, like being the savior. Like, I am going to do everything that is in my power to change this system. Very naively of me to think, but it it is something that if every teacher had that thought, then collectively as teachers, I think things would get better. But we're in a different space now in 2026 when it comes to education. But that is why I became a teacher and how I became a teacher. What did you love about teaching? Like when you were in there, 2019, it's pandemic year, it's your first year teaching. What did you love about it? What kept you in there for what was it? 4 years? 5 years?
To be honest, there was a lot of things that I loved about teaching. I would say that one of the things that I loved most about teaching was actually aside from the connection with the kids, because that's the best part, to be honest. I know that that's like cheesy and this and that, but like that's literally the best part, the connection with the kids. And it's like Pam is saying, we still have so many kids that still talk to us, reach out to us, are so interested in our lives, are probably listening to this right now. Like, we have those connections with those kids, and that's forever. Like any of our previous babies could reach out to us, and they're always gonna have us, you know. I would say on top of that, it's literally just like confidence, because I became a teacher when I was 22 years old. And I feel like truly, like I remember my mentor, she told me, she was like, you know how they say fake it till you make it? Like literally fake it till you make it. The kids don't know what you don't know. You know, she was like, just speak. And I literally faked it till I made it. Like I was out there, I don't know, I was doing the damn thing, but I feel like the confidence that I had to like also like speak to people, because I've always been like a very anxious person. So like standing in front of a classroom of like 30 kids, and then on top of that, I eventually went on to become like the class sponsor. So like talking in an auditorium with 300 plus kids, like the evolution, the growth that I had as just like a presenter or whatever you want to call it,
Mhm.
that was big to me. I feel like teaching just taught me like how adaptable I am. Obviously, because we were also teaching during a pandemic, like I was just like going with the flow, like writing it out, doing all the things. So I feel like that was another thing that I loved about teaching. And then another thing, I know everybody has different experiences, but I truly loved like the friendships that I made when I was teaching. Like I still have so many friendships that are from that, from when I was in education. But I truly felt like I had my people. I had found my people at my school, you know? I felt like a unit, a united front. And then on top of that, this is like a random little silly thing that has like almost nothing to do with the actual practice of education. But I grew up my whole life sharing a room with my sister. And then I went from sharing a room with my sister to sharing a room with my husband. Yes, I did share the room with the kids, but I had something that was mine. Like
Mm.
when I got there in the morning, like this is my classroom. But another thing I actually really liked about teaching was I was a world history teacher, and I love history. I love history. So it was hard for me sometimes, for the sense of like some kids have no interest at all in history, especially ancient world history,
Mm.
which is what I taught, ancient world history. Like, oh, we're talking 2,000 years ago. We're talking about empires and all that stuff. And they're like, Miss, why do we care about this dead guy, right? But history repeats itself. And you have to know, like, how do they know how to quarantine? Quarantena? Because they did it back then. You know what I'm saying? So I had to like connect all these things. But I really enjoyed what I taught. It wasn't hard for me to say the same thing 7 times, because I actually genuinely loved what I taught. I loved the people I worked with, and I loved, for the most part, the students that we had. Those are all the things I loved about teaching. What about you?
Yeah, there was so much that I loved about teaching. I absolutely loved working with young people. I was very passionate about it because young people are passionate and energetic. And when I think back to myself in my early 20s, learning about, again, urban education, concentrating on social justice, it was a lot of the youth that were pushing many movements that happened in history. When you look at
Mm.
civil rights movement, when you look at women's movement, there was a lot of youth behind these movements that were able to, like, I think make a difference, you know? And so I just always loved like the passion that kids had, and like that they were so like, let's do it. Like they just have like an
Mm-hmm.
energy and a vibe about them
They
that was
do.
contagious. They were just always down. Like yeah, you had to force them a little bit, but like once we were in a book and we're reading it, like they're in it with me and we're having these like crazy dope conversations. And it was just a great experience to be able to come into a space every day and feel the energy that the kids brought. And
Mm-hmm.
they might think that their energy was like, oh, I'm sleepy or I'm this or I'm that. But now, when I have been out of the classroom for almost like 5 years now, there's no other space like being in a classroom. Like, you can't go to a corporate office in a corporate building and feel that energy that you have when like kids are like up and doing something and they're like in a group project and they're working so well, and like
Mm-hmm.
you tell them, okay, you worked on this project and now you're gonna present it, and they're like, you know, trying to like present the thing. And it's just such a fun thing to be in a space with so many different individuals and so many different characters and so many different personalities, and just it's a high energy environment. And because I am the person that I am, and I myself am high energy, like I really liked the energy always in the classroom, and I feel like I was able to shift and move the energy. I felt like I was an airbender in the classroom, you
Mm-hmm.
know, like where yeah, I was able to mold the energy and shape the energy and bring the energy to new heights that I never thought that I would be able to like get to and have
Mm-hmm.
conversations. There were some conversations that I had with students when we were reading books that I've never even had with adults. I was reading some amazing books. Like, we read 1984 like 5 times. And I think to this day, if any of the students are like listening back to this, they will tell you like 1984 was instrumental. Like it was amazing. And like I'm so happy like I got to read and talk about interesting things in our lessons, and like the curriculum was dope. Like
Mm-hmm.
I just enjoyed the kids energy. It's true what you're saying, it was such a family, and I really liked that. Even the teachers that I have beef with, shout out to the haters, because haters always gonna hate, but I love y'all because I still remember like feeling like if it was a family. Like even if we didn't like each other and even if we didn't see eye to eye, I look back at my time at I Matter and every single person in there with so much love and so much like just with eyes of amor. I loved every single person that I worked with, that I taught with. It was a family.
But I will say that by the time I became a teacher, yes, I was really young. I was 21, 22. I was already a mom. So it's different. Like we wasn't different. Like what you could give, I couldn't give. I could never give that much of myself to my profession because I was already in motherhood.
Yeah.
And that's part of why I left. But but going back to what we liked about teaching, I will say that I feel like teaching is one of the only jobs that you have where in 2 3 years you can impact 400 plus lives,
Yes.
because every single year we have like 160 170 kids because our classes are 25 30 kids. And it's like there's no other profession really where you touch that many lives that quickly.
Yeah.
Like the amount of impact that teachers have is absolutely insane.
Yes.
And that's one of the good parts of the job.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mhm.
So now let's go into when things started changing, which you kind of touched on it a little bit, which is when we became mothers. And you mentioned something right now that is so true. When you got into teaching, you already had a child. And when I got into teaching, I didn't. I didn't have kids. My first 4 years, which I consider the best of the best years I ever had in the classroom, I had no kids. So my students were my kids, and I gave every single ounce of energy and blood, sweat, and tears that I had, I gave it to those children. I completely left my heart and soul in that classroom, and I came home absolutely exhausted because, again, lots of energy, high energy. I'm air bending the energy. So after all of that, I'm exhausted, but I get to come home to my studio apartment and nap, like napping queen. Like I would nap every day after I came home from teaching. I was like, I'm gonna nap. Okay. I live by myself. I had a studio apartment. I was in my 20s. Me and Fernando were dating, but I had my own place. I had, no responsibilities of kids. I didn't have to like come home and then give attention to another human being or give energy to another human being. So your reality of being a mother while teaching is completely different than my first 4 years of teaching.
Yep. And I feel like if I wasn't a mom and I had started teaching, I feel like I would have gave so much more. 100%. I agree with that. But I think like in general, I was a mom, but I also had just moved back home to my parents' house. So I was living at home with my parents, with my husband and my newborn baby. And I was just a little like stressed and not happy. So I think that that also translated into my teaching. Like, yes, I was learning the ropes of it, but I also was like struggling so much personally that I felt like, I don't know, teaching had like its ups and downs, but it was also just like my life.
Mm.
But I think that at the end of the day, like what really affected my teaching career was motherhood, but also the fact that I started teaching during the pandemic, because I feel like the pandemic changed. And I actually have talked to some teachers, that have been in the profession for years, like 20, 30 years. And they literally told me like, teaching, like, yes, it's always been hard, but it's never been like this. Like, this is crazy. Like, this is something we've never seen before. And it just so happened that that year I got into teaching 2019, but by the end of that year, 2020, was when the pandemic happened and we shut down and we went online and all of that. So I literally had to learn not only how to manage a classroom, but now I'm learning how to use a computer, use learning management systems, like things that I had literally never done before, and then try to also engage these students online, because we know damn well that when it came to being online, those kids, you were looking at a seat. They would put the camera like that, looking at the ceiling, like you didn't even see them. Like, fulanito, are you alive? Are you there? And there was literally one time where there was a student left the camera on. The dad comes out in the boxers, and I see the dad in the boxers on
No.
camera. It was psycho. It was
Terrible.
crazy. But I do think that teaching during the pandemic was something that really tainted my teaching like experience.
Mm.
Like me, obviously being a first time mom and dealing with all that, and I was like breastfeeding and everything. Like I remember I would pump during lunch, I would pump. And sometimes, let's say like a kid had to leave early or whatever, I would put up a sign because they told me I could pump in my room. But the security guard would open the door, wouldn't even look at the sign, would open the door while I'm there pumping. There was so much going on at that time
Mhm.
in my life that I felt like, I don't know. I just feel like the main thing was that the pandemic tainted my teaching career.
Yeah, the
Yes.
the pandemic changed everything. Like in 2019, the 2019 to 2020 school year was the year that was the first year I had left iMatter and I went to a different school closer to my house because I was living in Homestead at that point. Me and Fernando had bought our house. And so after 4 years of iMatter and after 4 years of Hialeah, I love Hialeah. Hialeah's in my heart. Okay. Hialeah. I love Hialeah. So after 4 years of Hialeah, I literally could not anymore because I was living in Homestead and like commuting an hour. And I was at another school and I was pregnant with Elias. And being pregnant and teaching was not it. Like I was tired. I was big. I was annoyed. And the school, like the vibe of the school, just right off the bat, was so different. And I think I was ultimately spoiled at iMatter because there was just a magic in that place that can never be duplicated. And I had worked at 3 different schools and had not felt the same way. But that second school just was not the right vibe and was not the right fit for me. And I was pregnant, and I was so happy when I heard the school was going to shut down and we were going to go online. I was like, praise God, coronavirus. I was like, wow, Lord, you came through for me. I did not know that this was going to be what transpired with COVID. I just remember feeling like, wow, I don't have to finish the year. This is amazing. I was like, wow, I'm going to be able to work from my house and finish my pregnancy and be at home and give birth and be at home. Like, that's all I could think about.
Mm-hmm.
Was like, I was going to be at my house. So that was the only thing that I thought about. But I was super pregnant during COVID, and towards the end of the year, we were doing school online, and that was a hot mess when things started changing for us and why we left. I think we can pinpoint to COVID-19. I think that is the same for a lot of educators. I think a lot of educators felt the shift and the rift and the what the heck did education become after COVID-19, because we like you said, we had to like learn how to move our classrooms into digital spaces with no training. With no training. Cause the school, it wasn't like the school was giving us like months of PD prior to these things. Like we were just like given Zoom and saying, here, do it. And overnight, teachers had to become Zoom experts, had to become LMS experts, had to find and figure out a way to move their classroom to digital spaces. Like that is absolutely insane with no training to just do it. And I think a lot of teachers felt like this is crazy. This is unfair. Maybe a lot of the younger teachers were able to do it more easily, but I can only imagine for the older teachers that maybe were not so savvy with technology or that were just so stuck in their ways to make this huge shift and move into digital space and digital teaching was so chaotic. So chaotic. I think I transitioned well, but if I felt it was still chaotic and I feel like I did it well, I can only imagine the other people. And like you're saying, it was so dangerous. Like when you think about, like we had kids on Zoom and their parents were walking around, their siblings were walking around, and like your other kids are in the classroom in the Zoom looking at people in their underwear. Like that was obviously, it wasn't on purpose, but you're in your house, the kid's in his house, he sees his
Mm-hmm.
mom walking around topless all day long. It's not a thing. The kid's online, he's just sitting there and the lady's minding her own business or whatever she's doing, not realizing what's happening. Like hello, like I just think about like how crazy that was, that like we had like we were exposing. Thank God that that never happened to me,
Mm-hmm.
but it surely happened to others. So
But also, mind you, can we comment on the fact that like so many of my students literally had like tragedies happening? Like
yes,
we're in a pandemic. Like
we're in
they're losing family members. They're like they don't even have the motivation to like log in. Like there's so much more. They're like there's so much more happening. So much more serious things than me sitting on this Zoom and listening to you talk about world history and dead guys. Like they don't care about any of that. So it was very hard to have students be engaged and interested in the middle of a pandemic. They're literally scared out
yes,
here. And then also it was just hard for us to navigate everything and to understand like how can we use these platforms to like actually bring actual instruction to these kids, because they were not in that mental space. They were not at all, and that made our job even harder.
absolutely. So back to the top of the episode where I was talking about energy. I feel like I thrived off of that energy and my kids being in the room with me and seeing their faces and having the conversations, and then just them just being there, like there. When we went online, that energy disappeared. It was me staring at blank screens, blank boxes, kids that were totally disengaged. Like you're saying, they have a million and eight things going on in their head. They're sick. their grandparents are sick, the world feels like it's coming to an end, and you're here and I'm trying to like tell you to pay attention over like a Zoom, call. It wasn't a good look for teaching, right? So definitely that was, I think, a big change and a big shift. And again, I was pregnant, you were a mom, so work life balance was now becoming something that we, I think, were both looking out for, right? Like before me, I didn't care. It was just work because I really was like, whatever, I don't have anything else to do. But as soon as I was pregnant and Elias was growing in my belly and it was a reality that I was going to be a mom, that to me became number one priority. Number one priority. And then we went back. We ended up going back after COVID. Then it was the dreaded hybrid teaching, where now you had to be in the classroom with a mask, teach with a mask, the kids with a mask, some kids online. So you had to figure out how to manage the kids in the classroom and the kids online. Dead.
Yeah, and during that hybrid teaching, I was pregnant with my second child. So that was not good. That was not fun. I literally, actually, when I went into labor, I started labor at work, which was terrible. So I felt like that hybrid approach, like, yes, it wasn't ideal either, but I was like pregnant and tired. So I was like, okay, I'll take these 4 students.
Yeah, that hybrid teaching to me was crazy. But now that we know that motherhood and COVID was what started the shift, like why, what was that moment where you made the decision to leave? What did that do to our identity? Like, was there an identity shift? How was it starting over in like those first couple like months after leaving? And then, like, were you judged by anyone for leaving?
Okay, so I would say that for me, the main thing was like, number one, my heart wasn't in it anymore. And I truly believe that education is such an important profession. Like every single person that you look up to, teachers, doctors, everybody that you know has gone through education and like being inspired by teachers. So I felt like if my heart wasn't in it, I was doing a disservice to the kids that were sitting there in front of me. I feel like everybody that's in the classroom should have at least some level of passion in it, and I just didn't have it anymore. Like I loved the kids, but I was like, I just love the kids. I just want to chill with the kids. I don't want to be out here teaching no more and having to do all the grading and the this and the that. But then also the fact that I was a mom and I felt like my kids literally got the last of me. So I just felt like my kids were getting the last of me, especially because teaching, at least for me, that I was a teacher that had no experience in like classroom management. I will be the first one to admit that sometimes my class was absolutely chaotic. Like my class was like monkeys in there, like bouncing off the walls. And I struggled for a long time to get my classroom. Like I would say like the last year teaching was that I felt like I had a little bit more control. Every other year, it was chaotic, and I would get home and feel like so overstimulated and feel like I didn't even want to hear my husband talk or my kids talk, like just quiet, right? And that was not good. I
Mhm.
wasn't helping my family life. It wasn't helping my relationship with my kids. So that added to it too. And then I would say, how did I get out? I was blessed. I prayed a lot, number one. I prayed a lot because, interesting story, and this is like when my faith started growing a little bit. I prayed to the Lord the year before I left teaching. I prayed to the Lord and told the Lord that I wanted to leave teaching.
Mm,
I heard back from the Lord. I know that people think like that's not realistic, but it's just like it's a thought that's in your head that you know is not from you.
yeah.
So the Lord basically was telling me like not yet, like one more year, right? So I stayed that one more year, and that last year, which I felt the most confident in my teaching and in my classroom management, all my stuff. That year, I actually started off by praying for every single student on my roster, which
Mm,
was like 175 kids. Like I went on the list of every single
wow.
kid. I prayed for them. When I got to the classroom, I actually walked around touching every single desk praying over, the desk in my classroom and all that. And I will say that that year, even though it was rough because I was the eighth grade sponsor, like I said, I took on more responsibility. I do feel like the best about that last year. So that helped a lot. But yeah, so I prayed to the Lord. And then that year actually was that my husband was able to he got a job because my husband wasn't working. He got a job working for the fire department. So we got more government assistance. We were able to be fine for me to leave.
Yeah.
So that was like basically the Lord answered my prayers for the financial
Mhm.
aspect and I was able to get out. I know that's like super blessed. A lot of people don't have that blessing, but yeah, I would say that's how I got out. And then how did people feel about it? I think for the most part, like everybody felt like they kind of knew that I was not really into it. So I don't think that anybody was really like surprised by me leaving or anything like that. At the end of the day, like my faith was growing. So I had faith that like if the Lord made it happen, I'm gonna be fine and my family's gonna be fine.
Well, after I gave birth to Elias, thankfully my mom was with Elias, taking care of Elias when I was teaching. Fernando and I were at our third school. So I had left the school that I was in while I was pregnant during COVID. I was only there for a year. And then when we went back to hybrid, I was in a new school and I hated that one too. I hated the feeling of being so tired because teaching is exhausting. Teaching is exhausting. But I hated that I was so exhausted and didn't have time and energy for Elias, who is a baby, who wants to play, who wants to crawl and explore. And here I am, like exhausted. So I really was feeling like mom guilt about that. And then I just started like giving less of myself in the classroom because I was trying to save my energy for my house. But then it just felt like I was half-assing it. Like I was either half-assing it at home or half-assing it in the classroom. But I just felt like it wasn't the same. Like I wasn't able to airbend in the way that I was airbending before. And it just became like mediocre. And so I knew that I just wasn't the best version of myself in the classroom that I wanted to be and that the kids deserved. So I knew I was like, this is not going to last much longer. And then when I got pregnant with Ian, I was like praying every single day for the Lord to get me out of teaching because I was like, I'm now having another child. So now it is two. And if I barely have energy for my one child and teaching in a classroom, there's no way I'm going to have energy for two. That last year of me teaching, I was literally in my classroom applying to jobs. I was on LinkedIn applying
Me
to
too, me
jobs.
too.
I applied to I don't even know like how many freaking jobs. Must have been like over 300 jobs. Every single day I was applying to jobs. Every single day I was, on LinkedIn reaching out to recruiters, having multiple interviews, praying that the Lord will just open up an opportunity. Like all I needed was one yes. But that last year of teaching, again, I was still pregnant with Ian. I was checked. I was so
Me too.
checked out. I was so done. I was so done. Like I was not even there. Like it was my worst year teaching because I did not want to be there whatsoever. All I could think about was me being pregnant, my one baby at home. I'm having a second child. I have no energy. I'm tired. I'm exhausted. I want to be with my kids in my house, not dealing with everyone else's kids. I went on maternity leave. I was born on February 7th. And when Ian was born, like after he came out, and we're just like in the hospital and I'm like catching up and I'm like on my phone trying to give people update. I listened to a voicemail that I get and it's the recruiter from my current company. And I hear the voicemail and it's like, hey, I'm calling, want to interview you, blah, 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 blah. And I literally called her back. I'm in the hospital bed. Ian was just born. And I literally was like, I'm calling you back. I can't interview this week, but I can interview with you next week. So, Ian being 1 week old, I had an interview with the recruiter, the HR girl that is where I'm working now. And It was amazing. It was godsend. And then once I went to the second interview, the girl that interviewed me was a former teacher. So
Oh
she
my
just
gosh.
loved my vibes. She was like, this is exactly what we're looking for. And it was just an amazing, amazing conversation. And they loved that they offered me the job like mid-February. Now Ian's 2 weeks old. I'm on maternity leave from the school. They offered me the job. And in my mind, I was like, okay, Ian is literally 2 weeks old. So I told the recruiter girl, I'm like, yes, I'm going to accept the position, but can I start in a month? March 14th. I told her it's because I wanted to give the school enough time to get a replacement, blah, blah, blah. And she was like, yes, no problem. March 14th, we'll have you start. Perfect. But it gave me a month to kind of, just be with Ian. And, so in reality, I did not take the 12 weeks off for FMLA. I did not have the undivided attention for Ian when he was a newborn, because a month into him being born, I was already starting my new journey and career as a corporate trainer. So,
You know something? Not to cut your story off, but that reminds me that I was literally, I'm like, I don't know if they even know this. I was out there like changing my baby's diapers and everything, like on Zoom teaching. Elena, I had the baby right there next to me, feeding the baby on camera, everything.
I emailed the school and I was like, I'm not coming back after FMLA.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I'm letting you know now, so you know that when I'm supposed to come back in June or in May, I'm not coming back. And nothing, I never came back, and I'm still working in the same company that I've been working at since I left teaching. I just 4 years, March 14th, that I've been with this company. Like, it's been a blessing. It's been a
Mm-hmm.
blessing to be here. And in terms of starting over is always hard, but you make it work. And then judgment from others, you already know I had the haters. Haters gonna hate. Haters gonna hate. I feel like a lot of people judge me.
You're also a very like outspoken and like very like I say extra.
Opinionated.
She's an extra person, okay? So I feel like when you were teaching, you were very loud about teaching. And when you left teaching, you were very loud about leaving teaching. So I think that some people were rubbed a little bit the wrong way, especially teachers that were like still in it, still feeling the way they felt. They was feeling a little bit like, about you.
I feel like when I left teaching, I was so over it that I was like upset. I was like mad. Now, 4 years out of teaching, I can look back and speak about it in a way that is beautiful, in a way that I'm appreciative of it, in a way that makes me feel proud that I was there, in a way that I can say this was one of the best things that ever happened to me was teaching.
Mm-hmm.
But when I am in the thick of it and I'm like like just trying to fight for my life and claw my way out of this thing and feeling trapped, when I got out, oh yes,
She was loud
I
about
was
it.
loud and proud about getting out. And I do think that because I expressed myself in that way, I was judged because, like you're saying, there was teachers that were in the thick of it and that knew me, taught with me, and it's just hard. It's kind of hard to hear someone that like was shooting with you in the gym to just like start trashing and talking crap about like the whole system that you're still in.
I do feel like there's a level of jealousy too, though. Like some people feeling like they can't get out.
Yeah.
Like that's part of it,
Yeah,
realistically.
definitely. Definitely that's part of it. And that they're still in it. Like, damn. But I do think I was judged, but it's okay. Like, I have forgiven myself. I hope that those people forgive me. Like I said, I love every single person that I've taught with, that I've been able to teach. Like, I now look back at that time in my life with great appreciation, and love and respect for that time in my life, but knowing that I would never go back. I mean, never
Yeah,
say never,
me
but like
either.
I would do a lot of other things first before I had to go back.
I feel like when you think about it, teaching, at least what I could think about, is one of the only professions where like you can't even go to the bathroom without thinking like who's gonna watch your class. And a day off is not a day off because you gotta plan for your day off. You
Correct.
gotta have lesson plans. You gotta have what is the sub
The
work gonna do.
horror.
That's why I'm saying I would never return. I don't have the same energy that you have. That you have energy like that. You have energy to spare. I had a little bit of energy, and the thing with teaching is you have to be almost like an actor because you have to, every period is different. If your last period was absolutely terrible, you can't bring that into the next period. So you got to be an actor and be like, good morning. Good morning. How are you guys today? For me, it got to the point where like I was expelling so much energy that at home, I promise you, I had zero. So I had to choose my family. I had
Yeah.
to choose my family. And that's it. That's what happened with me in teaching.
Yeah.
I still look at it fondly, like you're saying. I look back on it, love my students, love the people that taught. I genuinely love it, like for real. I look back at it, I'm like, you know what? We had great times and some great kids came out of that
Yes.
that are doing amazing things now.
Yes, they are.
But no,
No, it's a no
I'm
for us.
done. No more teaching. Well, never say never, like
No
you
more
said,
teaching.
but
All right.
yeah.
So we're winding down, getting towards the end. Where are you now, Lolo, in terms of your career, working? What do you want to do?
So I'm trying to do a career pivot. I am getting my master's in business administration, so MBA in human resource management, and I'm trying to shift into the human resource world. I don't know exactly what's going to be like my exact target occupation because I know human resources has such a broad spectrum, and that's why I chose it, because you could do employee relations, you could do payroll, you could do learning and development, you can do so many different things. I haven't fully decided what I want to do. I haven't fully decided what I want to do in human resources, but that's what I'm doing. And then hopefully, I could just pivot into that career. That's one thing that I wanted. I wanted a career where I could like grow professionally. And not to say that in teaching you can't, but if you're a teacher, unless you have a goal to become an administration or something like that, you're going to be a teacher for like 30 years. And I want a profession where I could like climb that ladder. I actually wanted that. So let's see what human resources brings. But yeah.
It's a good place to pivot to because Fernando went from teaching to HR. Chris went from teaching to HR.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like it's definitely doable. It's a place that you can grow in. For those of you that don't know, since I've been out of teaching, out of the classroom, I'm currently a corporate trainer. I'm actually the supervisor of the training and documentation team at our company. And a lot of people are like, well, what do you actually do? Like, what is that? So I basically train people how to use our platform. And sometimes I make videos and I have to like put my little like video trainer voice. I'm like, hello, this is Pamela. And in this video, you're gonna learn how to blah blah blah. So it's been a really interesting journey. I really love what I do now, and it's still in the realm of education. It's still in the realm of like teaching people and helping people learn something. So that's been fulfilling. And I get to do it from home, which is the best. And there's a lot of work life balance in my current company, which I greatly appreciate. And it has been a blessing to be out of the classroom and in this new field. All right. Let's do some closing reflections. Lolo, what advice? Let's talk about any advice that we have for teachers that are still wanting to pivot careers, or any advice to just like getting out of the classroom for those people that are interested in doing that.
I simply have the advice to like believe in yourself that you could do it, because I think a lot of the times like people want to leave. This is like not just teaching, just like jobs in general. Like people want to leave jobs and they feel like stuck in, maybe they've been there so many years and maybe that's all they know or whatever. Like just believe you could do it, because you can. You have the skills, the transferable skills to move over. And yeah, Just have faith in.
I moved into corporate, my husband moved into corporate, my sister-in-law has moved into corporate, and all of us have been former educators. So there's definitely a path forward for any teacher who wants to leave the classroom. My recommendation is always try to find something hybrid or remote. I know that's hard um to do, but you can do it if you believe in it, if you want it. It's a numbers game. Use AI to your advantage. When I was leaving the classroom, we didn't have ChatGPT or AI in the way that we have it now. I'm not saying to like go out there and lie, but use it to your advantage to like give you sample interview questions, or asking AI how you can enhance your LinkedIn profile and different things like that, or even using AI to tell you how your skills as a teacher can be transferred into a different field. So make the decision, if you want to get out, to get out.
If you are a teacher and you genuinely love your job, like, thank you so much, because we need
Yes.
teachers in the classroom, especially me and Pam, we're parents, we're moms. We need people in the classroom that want to be there,
Mhm.
that love their job, because you loving your job is going to be the best thing for our kids. Not only like for them to feel loved and comforted and all of that, but like for them to have the best experience with learning. So I truly feel like if you are somebody who wants to be in education, or you are in education, like, kudos to you, go for it. That wasn't mine and Pam's experience, but if your heart is in it, like, stay in it, because we need people who have their heart in it in education, and that's going to be the best thing for our youth and for our future.
Yes, kudos teachers. Shout out to all the teachers that are doing the Lord's work. May you be blessed.
Mm-hmm.
May you be loved. May you be taken care of in your homes, in your schools. You all are rock stars. May the Lord give you an abundance of energy. And I pray that you all do what you do with continued love, because, like Lolo said, we need teachers, and we need teachers that love what they're doing.
Con muchísimo amor, las primas. Besos.